Hello, everybody, and welcome to the McRADcast. Today, me and Josh are coming to you guestless. We are recording remotely due to the stay-at-home stuff and the COVID-19 debacle. Josh, how's it going, man?
It's going. Not too bad. As good as it could be during pandemic apocalypse.
Right, and we're not going to talk too much about that. We're just going to give you some insight on what we've been kind of dealing with and all that, which hasn't been, that sounds like a build-up to something bigger. It's not. I think we've been pretty solid, all things considered. But I just wanted to give some people some insight into the podcast and how we do it and kind of, what to expect and everything. So we record in my living room. In a makeshift studio. I say studio very loosely. It's just our gear and some microphones attached to my coffee table, and we sit around my sectional. It's a very kind of intimate little setting, and I like it because you get to hang out with people and really talk to them. So that's one thing I didn't like about setting this up remotely, but we have to adapt and do what we need to do to get the content out there. So there's actually about 4 more episodes we have in the bag ready to go that I could release before, but I'm going to release this one next, so this will be the next thing everyone hears. But we just wanted to give you an idea of kind of what we got going on, because we do like to have a guest for each main show, and then as you guys have probably heard if you've been kind of following, we also have McRADcast B-Sides, which used to be McRADcast Reviews, that we'll be just kind of talking about random subjects and stuff. This will kind of be a mix of the two, I think, but we'll probably release it as a main show.
I got you.
So, we're using Discord. We used some Skype earlier and had some technical difficulties, so hopefully we can get through this without any major issues, because I definitely don't want to roll this solo, because I like having you on the show.
Yeah. Well, it's been a weird time for sure. Like you said, I think we've both come out of this mostly unscathed on the backside. I think that we have been able to keep our jobs and do that sort of thing. But more importantly, we haven't been able to record, but we got really lucky that we were able to record enough podcasts to kind of get us through this time, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. So the episode before this one that I released was, I believe, Chad and Colby.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yep. So we have 4 more with guests that will be released, obviously, but we just wanted to kind of release this as an update deal because we haven't talked about this, and I don't want this to be about the pandemic and all that good stuff. Just a quick little update on us. Both of us were able to keep full-time positions at our jobs, and it didn't affect us in that respect. So I definitely, thoughts and stuff goes out to everyone who's struggling during this time. I know it's tough, and hopefully we can.
For sure.
Hopefully, part of this too is hopefully this can provide a little entertainment for, anyone.
Yeah, we need to get to the entertainment. Yeah, we need to get to that pretty quick. You know what I mean? That way they can stop listening to more about the virus.
Sure.
So,
sure.
What have you been watching?
Well, I think we all, at the beginning of this, we all started watching Tiger King because it released essentially like the week of the stay-at-home stuff. And so, we can touch on that briefly. I know it's kind of come and gone, and I know a lot of people are tired of hearing about that, especially with all the memes that flooded everyone's timelines and stuff. But it's worth
it blew up
mentioning.
Really quick.
Now,
real quick, though, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you listened to the podcast it's based on way before this came out, right?
Yeah, it was a year and a half ago, probably somewhere around there. And it's a podcast called Joe Exotic. It's basically mostly the same thing as the documentary. The only thing I'll say is I usually like podcasts better than documentary series because they tend to just be able to give you a lot more information because they don't have to have as much video for it and that sort of thing. But this is much better in documentary form because you can put the crazy faces with the crazy people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I didn't know. I'm sure you told me about that podcast because we talk about so many, but I don't quite remember that. So real quick to not to take too long a road around this, but the reason I got back into podcast was you recommended one called S-Town to me, and I listened to that and was blown away by it. And then I got back into podcast in general, and now listen to so many. I have like podcast ADHD when it comes to listening to them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But if anybody's out there listening, S-Town might be the best podcast ever that nobody's ever heard of.
Oh, it's really good. It's one of those things where it's like it's so hard to recommend in the sense that people go, well, what's that about? And you're like, well, I don't really want to tell you. Because
Joe Exotic fell into the same category. Really, it was the same thing. Like you can kind of start to describe, but it's such a weird, sprawling story that goes in so many directions that it's you don't want to ruin any of that for the first time somebody's listening. So you're just like, please just trust me and go listen.
Right. So yeah, S-Town is a great one to go watch, and I think that would be a cool one to make. A docu-series if they could get the decent footage, but I don't know, because everything that happened in that podcast, it's kind of like, I don't know if you want to rip the bandage off of that, and at this point.
Not only that, not only would it be a sore subject for the area that the particular podcast happened in, but also like how much that was a while back, it was several years ago. It's a pretty old podcast at this point, so it'd be hard to convince some of those people to get back into the hurricane that is the spotlight that they probably got a little bit of when the podcast first aired.
Sure. But anyway, take our word for that one. Go listen to S-Town if you haven't. It's really great. But yeah, so Tiger King, it's one of those things that you can explain it, but you just have to see it or hear it. You know what I mean? It's not something you can just go, oh, I understand what that's about, until you see it.
No, yeah, it is a complex thing for sure, and it goes so many directions, and the characters are all larger than life.
Oh my goodness. And it starts, and we talked about this before, but it starts out with, you meet Joe Exotic and you go like, what the hell is this dude, right? And you essentially say that even now, even after you've seen it. But it rapidly introduced this cast of characters, and all of them at first. So you have, every story has like your protagonist and your antagonist, right? Like your good guy and your bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, they frame it so genius because Joe Exotic, you go, this guy's batshit crazy, but he's kind of this like anti-hero in a way when you first see him, right? It's like, okay, he's bizarre and whatever. You don't know all the craziness yet. So you go, yeah, I can kind of get in this guy's corner. And then you kind of figure like, oh, he's kind of a bad person. And then you meet Carol Baskin, who you go, oh, this is the good guy, right? Like this is the shining star here in a pitch black, whatever. And you go, and then within like 2 or 3 episodes, you go, oh, everyone's terrible. Like everyone here is terrible.
Yeah. There's no redeeming characters in the entire show.
Yeah. It's bizarre, man. And like I said, we're not going to go through the whole thing, but if you haven't watched it, I suggest you do. There's been that whole thing, and this is something I talked to you about, Josh, is that with social media is basically a place you can go and scream into the void, right? That's the thing. And people do that thing where if something's popular or is getting a lot of traction, it's like cool to not like that thing or to like talk shit about that thing. And that bugs me even more than the overflow of memes and stuff or whatever. Because, the Tiger King memes, after a while, you're like, okay, I've seen pretty much every variation of this, right? But to just go, well, I'm never going to watch it, so I'm cooler than you. It's like, go fuck yourself. Like, that's stupid. That's such a stupid logic.
It's a bit of a cop out. You know what I mean? It's one thing to not ever want to go watch it. It's another thing to say it out loud.
Sure.
Right? Like brag that you don't ever want to watch it. It's like, shut up. Nobody cares.
But it's okay to not like it. That's fine. Like,
yeah.
Like you can.
I think that's completely acceptable. I think it was a mostly not likable documentary, right? It was just like, I don't know how you could come away going, I just love that documentary. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be the reaction that anyone should have. It should be, that's really interesting, and it was a wild ride, and it was a great documentary in the way that they introduced us to these crazy, insane people. But it's not like a happy thing. You know what I mean? Nobody's happy that anything that happened in that docuseries happened, right? Like, I don't even like zoos in general, like nice zoos, because they still feel like animal prisons to me personally. But like these things were really depressing zoos. Like all of these zoos and sanctuaries, so to speak, were all terrible. They all looked and felt gross.
Right. And it was, they were very, that was the thing. It was like a particular personality type goes after that kind of thing. And it shone really well through that. It was like, even like Doc Antle or whatever that guy, the creepy dude's name is.
Oh boy, yeah, that's him.
Yeah, him and Joe Exotic are essentially the same human. They just have, outwardly and like some slight nuanced, differences in their personalities, but they're essentially the same human.
Yeah. Yeah, one is the suburbs and the other one is the trailer park.
Right. So yeah, go watch it. I mean, it's definitely worth a watch. And me and you had the discussion about how Joe Exotic is a fascinating human being. And I think a lot of people don't understand that fascinating or interesting doesn't mean good or, like he's a hero. Just means
no. It just means it means he's captivating, right? This is what reality TV has done, right? They found out kind of what makes people tick, and it's not always a good story. It's not a happy story. It's just a story that catches your attention. So oftentimes those are shit show stories, right? It's not the happy-go-lucky, the super successful guy. None of that stuff is really all that fun to watch. It's the people that are insane that turn out to be the most interesting to watch. That's why even Netflix now has gotten on the reality TV train, not even documentaries, but reality TV, the terrible shows that most of us ran away from cable from are starting to show up on Netflix. And it's because, like everything else, it's the lowest common denominator, right? Everybody wants to watch a shit show, even if it's in, crazy formats that aren't interesting at all.
Mm-hmm. So it's funny you said that about Netflix, because there's that, what is it called on Netflix? The Love is Blind.
They have several. The Love is Blind. There's one called Too Hot to Handle. There's one that's called The Circle. They're just popping up everywhere. And they've got that new top 10 list, top 10 in the U.S. today list that you can go look at. And they are all almost always in the top 10.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you what everybody's watching. They're all watching the dumb, unintelligent shit. You know what I mean? That unfortunately is the lowest common denominator. And now that is going to start taking over a lot of your streaming services, because, they do what the public demands. Effectively, they go where the money goes, and that's where the money goes, unfortunately.
Sure. So I heard some people at work talking about Love is Blind, and I didn't, not just in passing, and I heard it like Netflix. Oh, it's really great. It was, whatever. So I check it out, and like 5 seconds in, I was like, what in the hell is this? And I loathe reality television. Like, I just can't. Like, even when I was a big fan of MMA and UFC stuff, like I couldn't watch that show because it's had those elements in it, and I just can't deal with it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is the first 2 seasons had those weird reality TV show elements, to climb the tower and come back down, and that dumb shit. And then they literally, after 2 or 3 seasons, it was just a bunch of dudes that lived in a house that fought every so many days. That's what that show became. It became like anti-reality TV. And then the reality TV portions, where it was dramatic, so to speak, was between the coaches or whatever, instead of the people on the show.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah,
still not right. It's just boring. And that's the problem with TV, is unintelligent people demand unintelligent things, and then those unintelligent things become much bigger than because Netflix, in my opinion, has been a bastion of good television for the most part for a long time, since they started streaming for the most part and started to do original things and buy original ideas. I think they've done a great job for the most part, but man, it is trending in the wrong direction.
I don't know about, you're not wrong. I think, when they first started doing Netflix original stuff, they almost couldn't lose. It was like one good thing after the other. But they've definitely had a couple of roller coaster moments where it's been like, okay, it's good. But now they've cast such a large net that there's something for everyone, and I think that's good because I don't think that.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I don't think that it's the end of the world that those shows are popping up, but I definitely think it's a trend in the wrong direction, because if those shows get more views than all the other shows that are good, that we consider good, then they're going to put less money into the creative, in-depth drama / comedy, whatever you like, and they're going to put them more into the reality shows because those things are cheap to make. You know what I mean? And they make you a lot of money.
Sure. What's funny too is you have these reality show, I'm putting this in air quotes, stars that think they're like mega famous, but like no one knows who they are in like 3 years, and it's just like they get on social
unless
media.
They hitch their ride to a network of shows, right? Like unless they start to get back on another show and then another show and start being recurring characters on the shows, then you know them over time. Whereas if you only watch them through one season of a reality show, they're a big deal for about, like you said, 2 or 3 years at most, and then they just peter off.
Yep. But they get on social media and act like they're like celebrities, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like you blew all of that.
Sad.
You blew all of that money on some stupid car or whatever, Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have been I've been watching quite a few things. I watched What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know if you're familiar with that show.
I never heard of it.
So it's there was a movie and it's Jermaine, what's his face from Flight of the Conchords, and
I love that guy.
Taika Waititi.
Oh yeah.
They wrote and directed it, and then they made a series out of it. It's on Hulu. Well, it's on FX, but it's on Hulu if you have Hulu. And it's basically like it's basically like a Office-esque vampire show. Like
that sounds amazing.
It's pretty damn funny. It's way funnier and way better than I ever expected it to be, and it came at the recommendation of a friend of mine, and it's so bizarre, but like it's really funny. You should watch it. It's really funny. It's only one full season, and then they're in the second season now. But on Hulu, you can keep up like currently.
Yeah.
And so it's like 10 episode season, and then I think there are 2 or 3 episodes into the second season.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, Taika Waititi, I'm obviously not a giant fan of his because he ruined Ragnarok for me, but I will say that he is a hilarious guy, and he does do really, really well when it comes to the comedy side of things. And I love his brand of comedy for the most part, right? Like his style of comedy. But the problem is he I've got a vendetta against him now because he ruined one of my favorite things. And so it's kind of like one of those weird deals, right? Like if M. Night Shyamalan comes out with a new movie because he ruined the last Airbender movie for me, I'll never forgive him for it no matter what.
Yeah, but that guy's been making kind of shit movies for a while.
Certainly, but he crossed the line when he messed with the Avatar for me. But it's just one of those things.
It bums me out that you don't like that Thor movie, because I wish you could like just separate it from that source material, because there's some parts of that movie that are so funny. Like the Taika Waititi plays that rock dude, whatever his name is, and
yes,
when Thor is trying to explain the one of my favorite scenes is when Thor is trying to explain Mjolnir to him. And like how it works. He's like, so you can fly. And he's like, no, the hammer, like I swing the hammer and it pulls me off and he's like, the hammer pulls you off. it's so dumb. No, before he says that, he's like, oh my God, the hammer pulls you off. And anyway, it's just so stupid. But the part when
I'm telling you, if I didn't hate the movie because of my love for the source material, I'm telling you, I would have enjoyed it like most everybody else. It's just one of those things where you just can't. I can't separate the two for whatever reason, and it's just a bad deal for me.
Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, What We Do in the Shadows. It's on Hulu. I recommend it. It's pretty damn funny. It's kind of a that's one of my things that I don't like about some of the Netflix stuff. That's another trend in Netflix I don't like, is the supernatural vampires, that kind of, but it's like all like teeny bopper style. And What We Do in the Shadows is definitely like an adult show, but it doesn't really take stabs at that stuff, but it does in a roundabout way, and I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, they'll poke at it every now and then from the side.
Like the whole thing is it's modern day, but these vampires all live together in a house, and so every vampire has what's called a familiar, which is like supposed to be a human that kind of is their servant, so to speak. But
Yeah.
I think with the promise of becoming a vampire, and but all of them are idiots, kind of. So it's like they're not like super elegant, but they try to be, and it's really funny. It's like it's almost the off. It's
I'll definitely I'll have to check it out for certain.
But it's like The Office with vampires, basically, because it's they break the fourth wall with like acknowledging like the film crew there all the time and stuff like that. Like they have and they have like the talking heads pieces where they're like, it'll cut to them just talking to the camera. It's pretty damn funny. I suggest it.
So. Yeah. They're supposed to be coming out with a new Steve Carell Netflix show that's kind of like that again, right? The Space Force.
Yeah. I don't know what the timeline is on that, like release wise, but I definitely want to check that out. Yeah.
Absolutely. The one thing I'm really looking forward to, though, like I said, was it dropped today actually. And so, you guys will be hearing this on probably Tuesday-ish. So go watch it. The new season for The Last Kingdom, and if you haven't seen the first 3 seasons, definitely stop what you're doing and go do that, because it might be, and this is a bold statement, Cotton, but it might be the best show on Netflix.
I've seen the first season. I guess I need to catch up. I don't remember much though. Like sometimes, like I said, I have good ADHD when it comes to movies, shows, and podcasts.
Yeah, I've been like that during this quarantine. I'm usually pretty good at sticking to something until I finish it and then move into the next something. But during this quarantine, I've watched like the first 5 or 6 episodes of Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime. It's very good, by the way. I think it's got 2 or 3 seasons. And then I watched the first episode of the new season of Afterlife, the Ricky Gervais Netflix show. It's very, very good. The first season of that was very good. The new season just dropped as well yesterday or day before. So they've got a lot of good stuff, content coming out right now, and it's not just mindless shit. There's some good stuff coming out. And for those who haven't seen The Last Kingdom, it is basically Vikings and early before it became England, Brits basically, and they were, it's a historical version of that to some extent. It's very, very good, and by most accounts pretty accurate as to how things really went down in that era when the Vikings found England and decided to make camp there forever.
Yep, I need to get back on it. So what else have I been watching? I started watching The Good Place, which is pretty good, pretty funny. I don't know if you ever watched it.
I watched it. I kind of got bored of it over time.
Right on. I'm just in the first season, so it's not and it's not something I'd like run back to continually, but it's not bad. I like it. I have been playing a lot of Animal Crossing New Horizons because apparently I'm a child, and
yeah, they say that that's a really, really good game. Actually, I haven't played it. It's not really up my alley because I'm a little too old for it. But my son has been playing it, and he said he loves it. He's been spending a ton of time on it.
I'm older than you, right?
Say what?
I said, I'm older than you, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You were like, I'm too old for it.
Well, yeah, but you're kind of like a younger version of me, kind of. I'm like an old person. I go to bed at like 9:30 almost every night and get up at 6:15, whether I like it or not, and those sorts of things. Having a kid does things to you, man. I promise.
Yeah. Well, I can honestly say that it is definitely geared towards like younger people. Absolutely. But we talked about this in the video game episode of B-Sides. Was every game has a loop, right? And for me, the reason I like a lot of the games the reason I played World of Warcraft for so long is that the main gameplay loop for me was you grind for more gear, for better gear. so you can grind for better gear. You know what I mean? Like it's this endless thing.
Yeah.
Like there's always new stuff coming out. And with Animal Crossing just being like a life sim type thing, I'm usually not into those games, but it's something about the loop of like, it's super relaxing because there's no like stressful stuff to do. Like you can just do whatever you want to do.
There's no pressure. It's a completely free, open kind of thing.
So yeah, and so there are people out there that are way more hardcore than I am. Like I don't play it that much. Like when I log in, I'll play for an hour or so, if that, 30 minutes sometimes, just to do my daily little stuff. But there's people out there that have already have like 200 plus hours in it, and they have like these crazy. They have these crazy ass islands with all this crazy stuff they've built, and I'm not there. But I have been playing a lot of it and enjoying it, so it's fun.
I've been doing that 30 minutes to an hour thing, but with a much older game, with The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. I had apparently never played very far into that game. I thought I did, but turns out I barely remember the Dark World at all. And that is literally the half point in the game, maybe not even the halfway point. Realistically, it's like a third of the way through the game is when you get there. And I remember bits and pieces, but I don't remember much of it, right? It's very, very vague and foggy in my mind. Like I remember the hook shot, but you get the hook shot pretty deep into the game, right? I just got it, and I've got 5 dungeons left or 4 dungeons left in the second part of the game. So it's definitely an adventure where I didn't understand what I didn't know. You know what I mean? You look back onto your past, like, yeah, I definitely played that game, no problem. And then you go back and you're like, I don't remember any of this. Turns out I didn't play as much, or I didn't remember as much as I thought I should.
So yeah, that being one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game of all time. That was a game when I played it that I went, whoa, man, this game is huge. Like which is crazy to think now because it's really not. But at the time, the world was huge.
Yeah, the world feels huge as a kid, and it feels so not huge as an adult. But the thing is as much as they make you go back and forth, and then they doubled up the world by making the Dark World, you know what I mean? And so it's like not that big of a map that you operate in, but there's so many things to where you have to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth that it makes it feel bigger than it really is. They did a really, really good job with that.
Yeah, dude. I'm glad you're playing through it again and actually kind of experiencing it if you haven't already, because it's definitely one of my favorites. I think they did. I had recently played. They did the remake on Switch of the Game Boy Link's Awakening.
Oh yeah,
and it was a really cool remake.
Winds or whatever.
No, it was just Link's Awakening. It was just like
oh, okay.
Yeah, it was basically the same map essentially as Link to the Past, but just reworked for that game. But it was on the original Game Boy.
Gotcha.
Like the dot matrix
That's
style.
dope.
Yeah. And this is a full blown 3D rendition of it. Super awesome. And I wish they would wish they would do that for Link to the Past, just because I want to see it in that art style. And I would love to replay that game like in a newer setting, but I might go back and replay Link to the Past just because you mentioned it, because it's such a good game.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I would love for them to do that with Final Fantasy VII rather than the giant grand remake that they gave it. I would love for them just to make that game over again, but nice and new. You know what I mean? In a real 3D setting rather than that fake 3D setting that they had it in back in the day. Obviously I love that game. It's one of my favorites, but I wish they would just give it a basic remake to, updated remake basically. And it doesn't even have to be like completely updated graphics. It could go back to like PlayStation 2 or 3 graphics, right? And then just remake the game that way, but make it almost identical and just add a few other little extra perks that you could, justify the game with, and then boom, I'd pay $60 for that immediately.
Yeah, apparently that's getting really good reviews. It's
The new 7 has gotten really, really good reviews, and everyone I've talked to absolutely had a great time with it. There was a few, little qualms and complaints here and there, but we're all old people now that are complaining about how they ruined our game. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
I'm so hard the other way with it. I just refuse. I don't have a PlayStation 4 anyway, but I was actually, if they were going to really genuinely remake 7 without ruining it for me, without ruining the combat and that sort of thing, because that's an important part of the game in my opinion. I wish they just would have named it something other than Final Fantasy VII, right? I wish they would have done something different there to kind of explain what they were doing in different terms, because that, you know, it is 7, but it's not, right? It's a completely different version of that. They've expanded on the story. This is legitimately one of 3 that they're coming out with. So you got to buy 3 games to get that whole story, to get the finale of that story. That seems crazy to me that you would have to buy 3 games, and that they don't really stand alone each. You know, they say that there's 40 to 80 hours worth of gameplay in each one, but man, it's just that something about that rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, no, I feel you. It's the same way I felt when they released The Hobbit in 3 movies. I was like, it just feels like a cash grab at this point, you know.
Yeah, that certainly felt that way.
You're taking one book and making it 3, and you know, the Lord of the Rings is obviously 3 books, so it's like that makes sense. The Hobbit, however,
you could have 3 distinct feeling movies, but The Hobbit literally just felt like it was dragging on forever.
Oh yeah, was not a fan.
Why would you make that into it's like making one book into a 9-hour movie. Almost nobody ever does that, right? So
right.
What would you do that for?
But yeah. So what else? Anything else? I've been not really. I broke out some old nerd novels, Dragonlance stuff.
Oh, that sounds cool. Speaking of nerd novels, trade paperbacks, graphic novels. If nobody's ever read Preacher, they made a show on FX about it. You know, kind of, I guess, the last few years.
Sure, man, that AMC or FX.
Yeah, it was after I think it was during or like around the same time as The Walking Dead, so it was like air back to back with that because it was kind of in the same, you know, adult vein.
Yeah.
But man, that graphic novel series was insanely good and one of the best I've ever read. So I highly recommend if you're highly offendable, don't go watch that. But I don't think too many people that listen to us are highly offendable, so definitely go read that. The show definitely came up short. It's one of those things that's hard to translate to a live action thing.
Yeah, the show wasn't bad, but the comic is so damn good, man.
Oh, it's so good. It's bizarrely good as to how well they pulled that off and how well they explained it.
It was Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon was the artist, I think. Is that right?
I can't remember exactly. It was very, very good, though. It would have been really, really good in like a animated series, in my opinion, like on a adult platform.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I just think there's so much going on in that story. It's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think but I think it's even harder to pull off with live action than it would be to pull off with. You know what I mean? I think they should go that way with a lot of things. Like the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, to me, that's the best Spider-Man movie of all time. And it's mostly because it was animated, in my opinion. The story was great, but if you tried to make that story live action, all the little goofy moments, the pig and the noir Spider-Man, you can't pull that off, right? And so there are things in the comic book that you couldn't pull off in real life. Arseface, they did a really good job, but man, he would look so much better if you just draw him. Right. You know what I mean? And he would be more believable at the same time. It's weird how when we animate things, the goofiness, overreaction, you know what I mean? Those sorts of things, we just accept them versus just going, well, that was cheesy, you know? And so I think they should start animating a lot of things. And I think there's definitely a market for that because I think obviously the Spider-Man movie got great receptions and they're talking about doing a bunch of them.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. That was a great movie. But it was Steve Dillon who did the art on Preacher. He also did the art.
And he's got a really gritty style. I like it a lot.
Yeah, he also worked with Ennis on Hellblazer and the Punisher stuff that Ennis did. And that was all really good.
Oh man, I can only imagine. I never read the Punisher stuff, but I can only imagine how good he wrote Punisher because he's a gritty dude.
Oh, you should definitely check that out because I think he did the one that they the Thomas Jane movie was based on, essentially.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember what the series was called. Welcome Home Frank or something. It was the name of the trade. Anyway, yeah, you should go read that stuff, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I've been watching a lot. Been reading a lot. What else? We've been playing some D&D online with our buddies. That's been fun.
Yeah, I've been having some trouble with Discord lately, here and there. This new world of digital communications, I think a lot of it is being bogged down because there's being so much more usage of it, right? We didn't have as many issues in the beginning, and now that we're in quarantine, I don't know if it's because there's so many of us trying to use it at once because it's the biggest party we've ever used or what, but we're having some issues for sure. And it's not consistent issues. It's each person kind of takes their turn having the issues.
Yeah, I've been pretty consistent with mine. I don't have too many issues, but it has been. There's been some times when we've been online where it's really been kind of difficult. I always tease you guys because it always sounds like you're talking through a tin can.
Yeah.
Not you personally, but like Adam when he's on there. I'm like, are you in an underwater? Like, are you underwater right now?
Yeah. Yeah, me and Adam he's only slightly more tech retard than I am, basically. And I'm getting better as the time goes on. I don't think he is. I think he's only getting worse.
I think he just doesn't care. So it's
part of it too. Definitely. He's an old school D&D player too, you know what I mean? And so, because he came up with all the old school guys, and so I think he'd much prefer to play in person. And I would too, to be honest with you. It's just scheduling and stuff is almost impossible for me to get somewhere, once a week, every week.
Oh yeah.
It's hard enough when it's online, you know what I mean? I still have to skip several here and there, but when you put them in person, it makes it an even bigger task to be able to go to some place and play for several hours, that sort of thing.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah. It's just like the podcast that we were talking about. Like, I'd much prefer to be sitting in the same room doing the podcast, but we got to do what we got to do.
I can't wait for the day that we get to, start scheduling people. And, I'd love for, people to give us a holler if they are interested or they think they might have some interesting stories to tell that, because that's what we're about mostly, is trying to get those funny, cool, interesting stories out of people.
Oh yeah. And I've got at least 3 or 4 ready to schedule pretty much right away once we can do it. Which I hope won't be too much longer. Sorry, I'm having some microphone issues here. 1 second. All right. But so we should be able to pick right back up and take off with it. So it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys,
I would love to start. I would love to start doing twice a week. You know what I mean? Because I think people are jonesing for content, and not just in today's times of quarantine, but just in general. I think people, they find something they like and they want to latch onto it and listen to it as much as possible. And I would love to be able to start doing, more and more guests and more conversations like this, and start maybe doing twice a week instead of once a week.
Yeah, I think we can make it happen. So, if you guys know anyone or just want to be on, just shoot me a message, or Josh online. And you can send us an email at stayradpodcast@gmail.com. Utilize that for sure.
Like a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Like a professional.
So, but yeah, we'll get some people back in here for sure. I've got my buddy Keith, who I want to get on here. Bart, who was supposed to be, we had him scheduled and had to cancel because it was there at the end.
Yeah, he was a last minute acts before everything got super crazy. As it was starting to get crazy, you did the smart thing and kind of canceled everything.
Yeah, and I was hoping I wasn't being too paranoid or anything like that. I was it's not what I wanted to do. I'm trying to, and I don't know, and once again, I don't want to bring this back up and rehash anything. I don't know that the reopening stuff that they're talking about coming this week is the right call. I hope it is. But once again, we'll see what happens, and I'm gonna.
Like I said, we're not professionals, right? We have no idea. But if I had to guess, the natural thing would be for the numbers to spike again. The only thing I would like to know, I would love for them to say, okay, this just isn't as deadly as we thought it was, and we can handle it. right? We can handle the demand of the hospitals. That's the big thing. If we could get to that point, then everything could start to go toward normal again, whatever the fuck normal is.
Sure. But we'll see. We'll play it. But I'm gonna maintain social distancing even after, just to make sure that
Yeah, give it another few weeks at the very least, right? Just let everybody else kind of figure it out and suss it out, and then we'll kind of swoop in toward the end when it looks safe, and see if we can't record some more awesome podcasts with people in studio rather than having to do the at a distance thing. We did get a new sweet piece of machinery that I haven't seen, so we might be able to plug in. Right now, currently, these people know that we're doing this on Discord, but we might be able to do like a phone call conversation. We're going to experiment around and see what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. We've tested some things out. And the cool thing about this thing is you can do it all from here. Like right now I'm on my phone. I'm not even on my computer. And the sound quality is good enough. I mean, it's definitely going to be a noticeable difference for those listening. My input stuff is not going to be as, it's probably going to be a little better, hopefully, but any guest and Josh, it's going to be slight quality loss, but I hope not too bad. So let us know what you guys think about the quality and everything. We want to know, because we definitely want to put out the best product we can, even when we're winging it. So
for sure,
we went to see Mark Normand.
Yes, we did.
So I want to say this because I'm a huge fanboy of his right now, and I probably will be forever, but I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy. And I think Mark Normand is one of the absolute best in the game right now. And I hope that guy blows up way bigger than he is. I hope he gets, he's about to put out a new special, and I don't know how he's doing it. If he's going to do the YouTube thing like Sam Morril did. By the way, you can go see Sam Morril's new stand-up on YouTube for free, which is awesome.
Wow, that's incredible.
Because, well, the thing is, when people go, man, why doesn't so-and-so have a Netflix special? It's like, well, it's probably because Netflix hasn't asked him. Mark Normand, for some reason, they will not give him a special. And I'm like, dude, he needs an hour on Netflix. One of my absolute favorites, his podcast with Joe List, Tuesdays with Stories, is one of my absolute favorite things to listen to. Every Tuesday, I get super excited. So we went to see him at Zany's in Nashville on the 6th of March, which was a Friday. You and me and my buddy Billy. And it was a great show, man. Zany's is a cool place. It's packed up in there. You're going to be sitting with people you don't know, but it's kind of cool because it's all, everyone's there for comedy, and, it's just a good time. But yeah, we
had a good feel to it. I like that comedy club a lot. I'd never been there. I tend to go back as much as we can when things kind of get, back to a regular state of things. And I had a great fucking time at that comedy club for sure.
Mm-hmm. So we went up there and we actually stayed the night because it was like a 9. Would we go to the earlier show or the late show? No, we went to the earlier show. The 7.
Yeah, it was a good time though all the way around. Because we went to some kind of weird speakeasy before we went there.
Yeah, so we stayed at the Courtyard Marriott, I think, around downtown there.
Yeah, anyway,
and we asked the door guy, like, hey, where's a cool bar and whatever, and he's like, you guys want food? We're like, yeah, probably not full blown like restaurant, just like a cool bar that might have some bar food or whatever. And he's like, yeah, you guys might want to check this place out. And I can't remember what it's called. It was called the something house. It was like, historic name, whatever.
Yeah, Parker House or Porter House or something like that.
But it was, he's like, you got to go, and like, it's kind of like hidden in a way. It's a speakeasy. It was, and you go, and we found them. We're like, is this the place? And we go in, and there's like a lobby that's like dimly lit. And the girl's like, yeah, what's up? And you're like, is this a bar? What the, and she's like, oh yeah, how many or whatever. And it took a minute to get in, not too long, 5-6 minutes probably. And
we had a super short wait. It got really busy right after we got there.
Yeah, but when we went in, it was like all candlelight, like no actual like electric light. And
they were all LED candles, I think, right?
Yeah, it wasn't actual candles, but it had the effect. Yeah. But it was definitely like a super hipster place, but it wasn't like pretentious, I didn't think. I thought it was And if it was, it wasn't like obnoxiously pretentious, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it had super fancy drinks and things that I would never really normally order and that sort of thing. And so it's good to get out of my comfort zone. I ordered like a Cuban sandwich while I was there too, and a nice drink.
Yeah, I got a good cocktail, and I ordered these like little. Remember the like little mini pancake things, but they were like,
oh yeah, tater pancakes.
Yeah, but they were delicious, man. Holy crap! It came with like this. It wasn't syrup. It was like this honey butter type concoction, and man, it was it was definitely a good accompaniment to having some drinks. We went there. It was really cool. We they brought the pretentious part was the checks. They brought them in like old library books, like leather bound.
Because
it definitely smelled of rich mahogany.
Yeah, and they were all like classic novels and stuff.
Right. So, but it still wasn't like obnoxiously pretentious. It was a fun place to go and hang out and have. I wouldn't want to hang out there all night, but the one drink was good. I had the little appetizer.
Absolutely, I definitely recommend it, but we can't remember the name, so fuck off. We're
not if I can remember, I'll look it up and I'll put it in the description of the episode. Anyway, so we went there and then we ended up going from there to the comedy club, I believe.
Yep.
And it was cold outside. It was like high 30s that night or low 40s.
Oh, yeah.
So
not comfortable.
Yeah, and we had to wait in a huge line to get in. We get in and get seated. And like I said, it was a great night. Opening comedian, Chris Allen was his name. And he was really funny. And I guess he tours with Mark quite a bit. And he had a really cool shirt that I bought. And I posted it on my Instagram. But it's a play on the "Don't Tread on Me" snake like flag, but instead of a snake, it was a coiled up microphone, and it said "Don't Tread on Comedy." And I just thought that was a great shirt, just because I do think comedy is like the last true bastion of like free speech and expression.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest comedy shirts I've ever seen in my whole life. That dude's merch was on point.
Yeah, but a super fun show. We had I took that bottle of E.H. Taylor small batch that we broke into. Which is a delicious bourbon for those that don't know.
Yep. Then when we went back to the hotel after that, it was on like Donkey Kong. I had several more drinks than I would normally have. McCaskill's a bad influence.
And the next day we were gonna go get some lunch or brunch or whatever the hell you do in Nashville. And what happened, Josh?
Your boy had poopy pants and vomit face in the same fucking day. Yeah. It was rough.
Yeah.
Like it started in the hotel that next morning. I felt fine when I woke up, and then we hung out for 30 minutes to an hour, kind of mulling about, and then I was like, I gotta shit, guys. And so I went to shit, and then I was like, oh no, I gotta throw up too. Oh, that's not cool. And so I did both of those things and was like, I'm fine. I'm totally fucking fine. Don't worry about it. I was not fine. Turns out I would then commence to shitting and puking the entire way home, much to the demise of these two fantastic human beings that went on this trip with me.
So we had to pull over a few times for you to blow chunks off the car. And,
and I'm pretty sure I sharted at least once.
I did not detect it via odor, but I'm not.
It's just lucky, I think.
Yeah. Not disputing it.
I think we should probably tell this when it's not in digital over the whatever format, because man, the depths of my suffering go pretty deep in this 2-hour car ride that became a 3-hour car ride because we had to pull over every 12 minutes for me to go, I think I gotta throw up. And then
me and Billy did go in. We stopped at a gas station at a truck stop that had a Denny's, and we did leave you outside while we went and ate a Grand Slam or whatever.
Yes. You guys were like, you want to go eat? And I was like, fuck no, I'm staying right here. But lo and behold, I did not stay right there. I had to go into that gas station and shit my brains out and puke again.
It's not funny. It was just so bizarre.
Yeah, and the thing is I think we all thought, man, it had to be a little bit of the alcohol. I don't ever drink that much, so it had to be just drank too much and he just couldn't handle it. I'm pretty sure I just had some bad meat the day before and I'm just retarded, right? And it just took that long to get in
I think before I left for Nashville the day before, I ate some meat that was left over in my refrigerator, and I think it then came back to bite me literally in the ass, about 36 hours later.
Well, it was pretty brutal, and, but we got through it, and we'll revisit that. We might even have Billy on. I talked to him the other day, and I've ran across a couple more bottles of that E.H. Taylor small batch. For those that don't know, that's an allocated bourbon, and what that means is liquor stores don't get a constant stock of them, so it's not a crazy expensive bottle by any means. It's just not readily available. But I found a couple more bottles, and I told Billy as soon as all this is over, he could come over and we'd crack it open. So maybe you'll come over and we'll drink some more E.H. Taylor and talk about it.
Yeah, and he can give us his side of the story about how insane it was, because he had to sleep in the bed with me the night before, and then. That's a sleeping giant. Like, that's a monster you're sleeping next to. It could erupt at any minute.
Yep. Definitely glad you didn't shit on Billy. So
I think he's probably more glad that I didn't shit on him.
Yep. I don't know. I don't know what he's into,
Yeah, you never know. I don't like to assume.
Oh my goodness. But that's kind of our update. Not a crazy fruitful episode, but we just wanted to throw some things out there and just kind of give everybody an update and give you a little bit more insight into how we do this thing and how we're going to kind of go about it in the future. So,
yeah, we definitely have a few episodes that I'm happy with that, there's some good information in some of them, and then there's some funny stories in some other ones, and there's some good stuff coming up, and I'm happy that we still have some more content that was pre-recorded, with good quality and good stories and good people, and that we can still kind of churn out over the next month. That way we can make sure that there's something for people to listen to.
Yeah, and we got, with this episode and the ones we have in the bag, we have another probably 5 to 6 weeks worth of stuff. And that, even if we're not on the other side fully of this pandemic stuff, it will at least give us enough time to go, okay, let's schedule some people for some Skype calls or phone calls or however we need to do it. And we'll get stuff out to you guys regardless, because I've gotten a lot of messages just on Facebook Messenger and things like that from people saying that they enjoy it. And I really appreciate those. It makes me feel really good that you guys are listening. I appreciate that a lot, and that you're enjoying it. It's just cool to have people like your stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I think this is one of our little pipe dreams that we've had for a while, and it's cool to actually be doing it. And now, just as soon as we get kind of rolling and feeling good, the pandemic, like I said, it's a minor thing for most people to look at us and say, well, oh boy, your podcast got affected. But, it was a really, really exciting time for us. And we just kind of got shitted on. And so now we're in the adapt and overcome phase where we're starting to get tight on material, and it's starting to get a little uncomfortable. And so we got to start figuring out how to start recording more and more things, and figure out the best way to do that and the best quality and that sort of thing.
Sure. And so, our format's still going to be main show where we, best case scenario, we have a guest. If not, it'll be me and Josh just kind of riffing on whatever. And then the B-sides, which will still be just a chosen topic or show or movie or whatever it is, piece of pop culture, and we'll riff on that. So if you guys have any suggestions on any movie review type stuff, any TV
that would be super cool to start getting suggestions on those particular shows, and then we kind of have homework assignments, and then talk about a subject that other people are interested in.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you have any suggestions on anything you'd like us to check out, watch, listen to, music, even whatever, any form of entertainment or media that you want us to look at and discuss, throw us some suggestions. Hit us up on Facebook, either me or Josh, the McRADcast page on Facebook, or once again, the email is stayradpodcast@gmail.com. Shoot us an email, let us know, because we would love to hear from you. And I think with that being said, we're going to call it, and we appreciate you guys all listening to us. Josh, you got anything else for the lovely people?
Oh, man, just stay safe out there.
Rock and roll, guys. Thank you guys for listening. It means the world to us. We're having a lot of good fun, and we hope to bring you some cool stuff very soon. So, as always, stay rad.